number has been down
because of a gas leak. Utility work in this area right where the epicenter of this earthquake was. So State Route 201 is closed from State Route 202 to I-80 is where you're going to see this. And then actually the 202 is closed down as well. So this entire area, again, this is a spot you're not going to want to head to anyway, but they do have that shut down. Now, a lot of this has reopened. Remember, there was lots of ramps to the airport closed off. Obviously, the airport's still closed, but that, as far as your route on I-80 is looking better. 5600 West still very slow, so I can only assume that there are still traffic lights out in that area. Some traffic lights have been restored, but the three big ones that are still out that you'll need to use as a four-way stop is State Route 201 at 300 West, the 201 at Redwood Road, and then Bangor. You are also seeing that right at 3100 South. Those traffic lights out, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Mallory. Hey, I want to show you the latest aftershocks that we've had. It's actually been 45 minutes since we've had an aftershock. This is the longest stretch that we've gone since the initial quake without an aftershock. And the ones that we've had in the past hour, those red dots indicating the ones that we have seen in the past hour, have been a 3.0 or less. I believe actually 2.6 was the biggest one that we have had in the past hour. I want to read something to you from the USGS's website to counteract some of these rumors that are going on that were addressed in that press conference. The chance of an earthquake of magnitude 6 or higher is only 3%. Such an earthquake is possible, but with low probability. If you are seeing these rumors going around on Facebook and Twitter that a larger earthquake is coming within a certain amount of time, that is not true. There is no way to forecast future earthquakes. Now, is it likely that we're going to continue to see aftershocks throughout the next few hours and throughout the next few days? Yes, but about 95 to 97% of the time, your first earthquake is your largest earthquake, and the aftershocks that follow are smaller. So if you see these rumors going around on social media, please do not pass them along. Again, here's the latest information. That 5.7 magnitude earthquake hit at 7:09. That makes it the fifth largest earthquake that we have had since settlement began here, and we started keeping records back in 1847. It is the largest earthquake to hit Utah since 1992. Back in 1992, we had a 5.9 earthquake that hit in the St. George area. So far, we have had 33 aftershocks. The largest aftershock hit at 8:02. It was a 4.4 magnitude. This likely was part of the Wasatch Fault system. The fault itself runs right along the mountains, but what you need to understand about fault lines is that they have these spurs or these branches that come off of them, very similar to what you see on a tree. So that's likely what we saw here. Of course, the seismologists will get out there and they'll do some digging and figure out exactly what fault spur it came off of, but that's likely what it was, coming off of the Wasatch Fault system, a spur there stretching over just to the northeast of the airport. So we'll continue to track this with USGS, bring you the latest information if we get it. If we get any more aftershocks, which we likely will, we'll of course jump in and let you know about it. Ron and Mary.
Love that our scientist is keeping us posted.
Yeah.
Lindsay, thank you.
Lindsay has done an incredible job on that. Some great information there. I want to remind you, once again, send your photos through our Chime In feature on our 2 News mobile app, also on KUTV.com. This is the easiest way to share your experience. And we hope that you're okay, that your property's okay, but just chime in. Yeah, let us know.
Download that app, and it not only keeps you posted on headlines, but then you can also share your photos and your feedback with us so we can share on the air.
Okay, we're going to head downtown right now. That's where
we are.
That's where we are, and that's where Morgan Saxon is too. Where are you now?
Guys, it's been a busy morning. We're along 200 South between 3 and 400 West at the building called Bar George. It's a apartment or residential space, and we've spoken with a couple of different people. It looks like the lower half is actually for sale, and they have all of this blocked off to traffic, as well as they have some of the police tape up here just to keep people from going too close to the building. You can see all of the damage due to this earthquake that happened here this morning. In fact, one of their lights even fell off and broke some of their lighting. A couple of people walked out from the building. They live up above. They said one of them had lived here for 6 years. The other one said that they had been here for 2 years. They've never obviously experienced something like this before, and They said it was a terrifying situation. The whole building just rattled. And right now they're working to get in contact with the owner of the building. They wouldn't tell us much more. They were still very shaken, but you can see that this side of the street has been blocked off to any traffic or any walkers, that is. Now, as I pan across the street, you'll see that there's still a bit of activity going on. We actually happened to chat with someone on the upper floor of this building just across the street from 200 South and 400 West, and he says there's broken glass everywhere in his apartment, and several other people dealing with the same situation this morning. Now, in terms of traffic, things are flowing fine out here. Looks like a UTA bus is just about to pass us, but obviously some significant damage to this building right here, as it is a bit of an older building and it happens to be for sale. So just avoid being near here right now, at least until they assess the situation and get everything cleaned up. Ron and Mary.
Okay, yeah, for people in that area, pretty scary, and damage assessment underway now. Thanks a lot, Morgan.
Yeah, all these damaged buildings kind of popping up now as more time has gone by. Okay, we have Michael Locklear. He is in Magna, and the folks there certainly took brunt of the damage and trauma.
We can't hear you, Michael.
Historic Main
there
Street.
we are. Okay.
You can't hear me.
We got you now.
We got you now.
Got you now.
Microphone's on. You got me?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so we're along historic Main Street, about 100 to 150 people displaced, 13 to 14 buildings evacuated, and we've seen, I would say, the most significant damage to about 3 buildings in particular, and this is 1 or 2 of them, depending on how you count. You can see that the bricks have come off the side of Colosimo's, this deli right next door, a salon that has had some glass damaged as well. I want to bring in Matthew McFarland. He's with Unified Fire Authority. He's been keeping us posted. What's the latest and what are crews doing right now?
So with limited resources, we have the one crew that's still here. They're doing further assessments, seeing if they can see any new damage. They're also working closely with the county assessors, the structural engineers. Those are the guys that are going to deem things uninhabitable or safe to go in to get belongings or inhabitable. That's sort of beyond the fire scope there, having the engineers check it out. Right now we are still holding evacuations. We're working with Red Cross to make sure anybody evacuated is getting the resources they need if they need them. Great cooperation with the police agencies as well. We appreciate their help here. At this point in time, no new information.
Now, something new in the past 20, 30 minutes, we've seen a drone up. They're assessing, I assume, with the county?
Yeah, there's a variety of drones up. I think both news drones as well as the county, and they can do better assessments through that aerial view, just making sure they're covering all their bases.
And you were telling me earlier that the reason we might be seeing so much damage here is simply because of the age of the buildings.
Yeah, that's correct. Even one building away from Main Street where you have a more residential construction, which is just wood construction, you're not seeing these collapses. Historic Magna Main Street, old buildings, brick construction, they're a little bit more prone. Beautiful area. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more prone in the earthquakes like this, and those construction techniques in the older construction is what's been problematic this morning.
And of course, we know Magna, the epicenter of this 5.7 quake, is all the damage centered on Main Street? Are there other pockets of Magna that are seeing any damage?
Right now, all the damage that we're aware of is here on Magna Main Street. And again, I don't think that's necessarily because this was the exact block of the epicenter. I couldn't speak to that, obviously. I don't know for certain. But I think it has to do with construction techniques. The residential stuff, even a few structures away, is built differently, and the ages might be differently, and that's what's affected it mostly.
And you also told me that, obviously we can see the damage here. It's more obvious, but there are also a lot of other damage that's not so obvious, like between, 2 buildings. Talk about what else we can't see.
Well, it's hard to talk about what we can't see, right? But I think it's worth mentioning that's why we have the engineers here. They're going to do a thorough assessment. We don't want to put any residents in harm's way by letting them back in prematurely. Even though these are mostly businesses, some of these older buildings have tenement housing above it. They have various apartments and living quarters attached to the buildings. So people are displaced by this more than just businesses. And we don't want to let them back in until we're absolutely certain that it's safe for them to do so.
Okay, thanks very much, Matthew McFarland. He's with the Unified Fire Authority, keeping us posted here on historic Main Street and Magna, which seems to have suffered the damage that we're seeing associated with this quake. A few significant buildings, like I mentioned, Colosimo's. Let's take another look at the sidewalk there. A lot of the bricks from the upper portion of that building. This has been a family business for 100 years, the owner was telling me earlier. And then other businesses are also kind of wondering what's next. Like there's a dental shop. Other places along here just kind of checking in with crews as they conduct their assessments to see how quickly they can get back in. Of course, there are also employees in addition to the people who live here. Some of the employees wondering when they'll be able to get back to work. They'd already been dealing with the coronavirus. Like I was talking with the owner of the salon there, and she said that she was up late last night doing a lot of sanitizing, thought they might have to close because of the coronavirus. Turned out it was an earthquake that shut them down, but she's hopeful that her business not as affected. I mean, she said inside it looked like mostly cosmetic and that the damage may not be so significant that she's out of business for a significant amount of time.
Yeah,
okay, we're live here in Magna. Michael Locklear, 2 News.
They're just making sure that they're structurally safe before they let anybody in, right?
Right, that's right. And so there are about 100 to 150 people who apparently live in buildings here on Main Street specifically who have been asked to evacuate while they make that assessment.
All right, Michael, thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay, want to show you a map here, a new map of the epicenter of this earthquake in Magna. The original quake was felt as far north as Idaho and as far south as Utah County. There have been several aftershocks. They've also been felt in various cities around the Wasatch Front. So once again, Salt Lake County officials are warning people not to listen to rumors out there. Seismologists at the U don't predict another significant quake.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt to be prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, and damage has happened out at Kennecott. They're dealing with a chemical spill and hazmat crews out on the scene. They're checking the rail lines here in Salt Lake City for the TRAX trains. They're waiting till they can be reassessed, and the airport is still shut down until they can get that all cleared.
Okay, so if you do have damage, you're wondering, okay, what am I going to do about this? Do I have earthquake insurance, that type of thing? On the news line with us now is Utah Insurance Commissioner Todd Kaiser. And Todd, thanks for being with us. So where do you come into all of this mix now?
I think people are going to be wanting to know if they have earthquake coverage, and I think the first place that we would refer them is to their insurance agent and to ask them if they have coverage. And most fire policies have earthquake exclusions on them, so more than likely those people who have coverage are people who have directly talked with their agent and asked for earthquake coverage. But
is it more expensive here in Utah because of the risk and being along the Wasatch Fault?
Yes, it is. As I had mentioned earlier, there is typically to the standard fire policy, there's an exclusion, and that exclusion can be bought back on many of the insurance companies offer a buyback. Sometimes you have to go to a second insurance company to buy that coverage, but earthquake coverage has been readily available and accessible at about the same cost as your standard fire policy would be. So if you're paying $700-800 for your fire policy, you probably would be expected to pay a premium somewhere around that same amount for earthquake, but you would have a substantially different deductible. Your deductible could be as high as 5 or even 10%. So they have a significantly higher deductible.
Okay, so as the insurance commissioner, where do you come into this when we have somewhat of a disaster like this?
Well, we're here to answer questions and help people resolve issues. If they have an earthquake policy and they're having trouble getting the insurance company to pay that claim, then we would be available to help that policyholder with their insurance company and help them through that policy claim.
Yeah, we're seeing some buildings with outside damage, but we're also seeing some homes out in Magna that have been knocked off their foundation in a mobile home park. So would you guess that they're probably not insured for earthquakes?
I don't guess it's not a healthy thing to do as an insurance commissioner, but we would just, offer up that they need to reach out to their insurance agent, look at their policy. They could have some, minor coverage. I don't know what they do or don't have, but until we were to look at a policy, we just wouldn't know and wouldn't want to offer up advice at this time. But, we do have a phone number that they can call, 801-538-3805, a website at insurance.utah.gov that would be a place that they could check. One of the things that I think people need to understand is that it is the insurance consumer's responsibility to prove their loss. So in a fire, if your home were to burn down, if something were stolen out of your home, you would have to prove that you lost what it was that you're making a claim that was lost. And with everybody having cameras on their phones and computers to be able to store information on, we would encourage people to take pictures throughout their home.
Yeah, document it.
Absolutely, so that in the event of a loss, they can come back to the insurance company and say, this is what we lost. Here's a picture of it, or here's a receipt documenting that we purchased this. And we always encourage people before the disaster to sit down with their insurance agent and ask those hard questions. Is this covered on my policy? Is my diamond ring? Is this bracelet, the tennis bracelet that I bought for my wife, is that insured on my standard policy? Do I need a different type of policy to cover the types of things that I've got? My gun, my antiques, those things have limitations.
All right, Todd Kaiser, the Utah Commissioner of Insurance, thank you very much for giving us that information.
Hey, our Jade Elliott is tracking down some new video and pictures from the live desk. Jade?
Yeah, Ron and Mary, I have some new images, brand new images, just coming into the live desk from a 2 News viewer actually in Magna, the epicenter of this earthquake. Take a look at the damage from inside of this viewer's home. You see the TV is completely off the wall, fallen onto the ground. In the next image, you see even more damage that was done. This looks to be in their laundry room, outside of their kitchen. You see a shelf completely tumbled over onto their washer and dryer. And you see some other images from their kitchen as well, as there is canned food, spices, broken glasses, everything out of their cupboards and cabinets has just fallen onto the floor after this earthquake hit this morning. There's another perspective of it right there. You see that fallen shelf in the background there in their laundry room, and the floor completely covered in broken glass, dishes, everything off of their counters fallen onto the floor, things out of their cupboards shaken out onto the ground this morning after that earthquake hit. Again, this house in Magna, the epicenter of this morning's earthquake.
They were allowed to go inside to take the pictures. Some people aren't allowed to go inside their homes just yet because they're not safe. They've been moved off of their foundations a little bit after that earthquake.
Yeah, Magna definitely taking the brunt of the damage, even commercial buildings there that are more than 100 years old. Okay, we want to head up to the University of Utah right now. Christina Flores is there live. And what are you learning about this earthquake?
Well, the first thing that I think we need to address after talking to the seismologists here and the experts, there is a rumor going around on social media, on email, that we're going to have a big 9.0 earthquake. I want to tell you right now, from the mouths of experts, this is not going to happen. This is false. They cannot predict earthquakes. Nobody can predict earthquakes. So if you hear this rumor, it's just that, a rumor. Here is the reality. We had a 5.7 magnitude earthquake this morning that was centered in Magna. We've seen the damage. Of course, that is very scary to a lot of people who have lived through it, through a lot of us who felt the shaking this morning. What is likely the rest of the day is that we will feel hundreds, perhaps thousands of aftershocks. And if you feel in the Magna area, if you live in the Magna area, you're probably going to feel those throughout the day. They will probably be, sort of light. Some people may feel them, some people may not. But let me show you on this graph, all these hits in the graph here, these are done in real time, are aftershocks. So we have a lot of aftershocks happening right now, and so do expect that. The risk of a big earthquake happening after the one we had today, according to the seismologists here, is very, very low, in the low percentage points. So again, what is likely? More aftershocks throughout the day. So you may or may not feel those. And as the day goes on, the risk of another bigger earthquake lessens as time goes on. So that is the reality, and that's what we should all focus on. One of the emergency managers here in Utah that we just spoke with said that he feels, in a way, it's sort of a good thing that we had this earthquake because it's moderate. Not a lot of serious damage, no loss of life that we know of, but it's certainly a wake-up call to all of us that we do live in a fault zone. The Wasatch Fault is here, and of course we have the potential of earthquakes in this area. So it's just a reminder to everyone that we do live in earthquake country. This is not California or Alaska. We don't live in a place where we could have massive earthquakes above a 7.0, but we do live in an earthquake zone. So it's a good reminder for everyone to be prepared. And more than anything, just right now, be calm and understand that probably the worst is behind us, more than likely. That is what the seismologists are telling us. We're just seeing a lot of little aftershocks, so definitely prepare for that. Ron and Mary, back to you.
Okay. All right, Christina, some great information separating fact and fiction.
Well, and Christina texted me earlier this morning, and she said, if you need any more information, hey, the building we're in here, the Wells Fargo building, is one of the safest buildings in the city because it was built to be earthquake-proof. It's built on rollers. So when we did shake this morning,
we felt those rollers this morning. Yeah,
it rocked. Our lights were shaking, we were shaking, but you could feel it was more of a sway. Rocking pretty good back and forth, but she also talked about how a lot of the buildings here are not retrofitted.
No, and they're worried about a lot of the homes too, because there are tens of thousands of brick homes that can suffer damage just like that. In fact, I got here home and checked mine in Murray.
Yikes.
So, all right, we want to check, see how the roads are doing right now. Let's head on over to Mallory.
Yeah, things are quieting down. Right after the earthquake, there was a lot of road closures, ramp closures to the airport were closed down, and debris on the roads. Now we're just dealing with some traffic lights still out. A lot of those have been repaired, but State Route 201 at 300 West, so just off of I-15, that still is a four-way stop, and then Bangor 3100 South. That one is causing a little bit of congestion. A lot of folks off of the road, which is exactly what you should be doing. As you heard earlier, those officials saying just another reason to stay home. This is still closed, and it likely will be for some time. There's a gas leak. This is near the epicenter. They're doing utility work in this area. So State Route 201 closed between State Route 202 and I-80. You're also going to see basically, because State Route 202 is a very short portion there, you're also going to see that closed down as well. So avoid that area, as we've been telling you. And then things at the airport, as far as the roads near the airport, are pretty much back to normal. Remember, the airport's still closed, but those ramps from 215 to I-80 and those other ramps are back to normal. And then again, 5600 West has been very slow. It's finally looking a little bit more back to normal as well, Lindsay.
Okay, good news there. And I have some good news as well. We have only had one aftershock since the last time I saw you. It happened at 9:47. It was a 2.6 magnitude aftershock, and that's the only one that we've had in the past hour. I'll remind you that on this graphic, the red dots indicate earthquakes that have happened in the past hour. The yellows are ones that have occurred in the past several hours. So you can see that is the only aftershock we've had in the past hour. It brings our total of aftershocks to 34. Strongest aftershock was still that 4.4 magnitude aftershock that we had at 8:02 a.m. Now, this was a 5.7 magnitude earthquake, hit at 7:09. It is the 5th largest earthquake we've had since settlement began here in Utah in 1847, and it's the largest we've had since 1992. I pulled up these last 5. If we can get rid of this banner right here, you can see the earthquake from today. That M means magnitude. Now, of course, with some of these, we don't have exact magnitudes because you'll see they happened in 1901, 1909, 1921. So a long time ago, before we had the very specific seismographs that can measure down to very specific magnitudes. So the greatest one was about a 6.5 back in 1901. That struck near Richfield. We had one right around a 6 magnitude range in Hansel Valley. That is just north of the Great Salt Lake. That happened in 1909. 1921, we had one near Elsinore. That one was about a 6.0 magnitude as well, plus or minus some. And then we had that 1992 earthquake in St. George, magnitude 5.8 or 5.9. I have seen both reports. I'm trying to figure out which one is correct. And then we had this one that occurred this morning, magnitude 5.7 near Magna. And we're just still continuing to get a handle on how much damage is out there, Ron and Mary.
And of course, Magna is out by the airport, and we sustained some damage out there. In fact, the airport is shut down, as we've been reporting.
We have Ariel Harrison live out at the airport. You were stuck trying to get there. The road was closed for a while, and now everything's shut down, right?
It sure is. It's still shut down. We just got out of that press conference with airport officials that tell us so far the most damage they're seeing is from that water break. But there are engineers going through the facilities right now to kind of pinpoint what that is. We also were told on a regular day in the airport there's nearly 20,000 just passengers coming off flights, going into flights, and today there was significantly less likely because of coronavirus, 9,000 passengers. And I'm now joined with one of those passengers that's trying to get out into the air. This is Morgan. He's again trying to make a flight, and right now no action happening here on the airport. What is kind of your game plan? He's a lot taller than me. Social distancing, right? But what's kind of your game plan for now? I'm told lots of passengers are at the Friends and Family Center.
Yeah, a lot of passengers, they're trying to, you know, make their next plans, make their next move. For now, you know, with the virus and everything, some people should just, you know, focus on their health right now, and it's a smart idea for them to shut it down with the delays and everything going on. So it's a good idea to shut it down right now. So.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. Are you canceling your flight, or are you still going to stick around?
I'm just going to postpone it, you know, go back to center, wait a little bit, you know. Probably won't be open until 8 o'clock tonight, so just try to forget on a better day, you know, and see what happens.
Yeah, and you were not inside the airport when the earthquake hit, but you are here now. So what's been your experience this morning?
A lot of people just, you know, standing around, milling around after they took everybody out the terminals, you know. A lot of people just trying to get home or trying to get to a hotel. It's hard, especially with the circumstances, so.
Are you local? Do you have a place to go if you need to get home?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we wish the best for you, and we'll cross our fingers that the planes take off soon. Now, we were told in that presser that they're thinking it'll be a matter of hours for those flights to finally start getting back underway. They're not anticipating days, at least at this point, because they've been pleasantly surprised that there wasn't more. But this is an old building, which is why we are getting a new airport, and that's something they reiterated. That new airport cannot come soon enough. So I'll keep an eye on the ground here. Again, lots of passengers still antsy to make their flights, but we'll continue to follow that. But I'm going to toss now to a press conference happening with Salt Lake City Police.
Actually, I'm going to take it from the live desk for a moment before that press conference starts. We are getting some information actually from Centerville Police. A lot of questions have been coming into the newsroom about the quality of water. Is the water safe to drink right now? Centerville Police answering some of those questions for us, saying this is a message from their public works. With the movement of pipes, the shifting that we've experienced because of this quake, they say it is not uncommon to see a little discoloration in our water. But they say to their knowledge at Centerville, the water is currently safe to drink. They do recommend people flush their cold water through first, and then of course flush their hot water after. They say if things don't clear up, if you are seeing some discoloration in your water, to give them a call. We're going to now toss to that press conference with Salt Lake Police.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. Today we will hear first from Governor Gary Herbert. Then we will hear from Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall, who will give an update on the city. Next, we'll hear from County Mayor Jenny Wilson. Then Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown will give us an update on police department operations. Salt Lake City Fire Chief Carl Lee will give us an update on department status and the volume of calls. Jess Anderson, the Commissioner of Public Safety, will update on damage assessments and other reports gathered from across the state. And then Steve Bowman, Geologic Hazards Program Manager of the Utah Geologic Survey, will give a brief update about the earthquake and what's next.
Well, thank you for being here. As most all of you know, we had a 5.7 magnitude earthquake here this morning at about 7:09 a.m. A lot of us got awakened in that process, and something we have not experienced very often here. The good news for us is there are no injuries that have been reported, no fatalities. We have some structural damages at the airport. The airport has been closed, which means no flights are coming in and no flights are going out. We believe that's a temporary situation, but it is certainly causing significant disruption for a lot of people and certainly our state at the current time. This is extremely bad timing because we already have the coronavirus issue that's going on right now, which is causing a lot of anxiety as it is, and certainly Mother Nature has no, I guess, reference point for additional challenges that we face here today. I would just like to say that the good news for all of us is we've been preparing for this for a long time. When I was Lieutenant Governor, we started what was called Be Ready Utah program, trying to get people to be prepared for an untoward event, whether it be fire, flood, or earthquake. In fact, we've added to that every April. We've now had practice runs on the Great Shakeout, where we in fact go through drills on if we had an earthquake this day, what would we do? And at 7:09 a.m. this morning, those protocols went into place very smoothly. Our EOC is up and operational. We've had contact with everybody up and down the Wasatch Front, the Wasatch Back, and other places to coordinate efforts to make sure that emergency steps are being taken to help our people. We've talked with those in the business community. Grocery stores are going to be open. There's going to be access to food and shelter. We do have some areas that we have some concerns with the shelters for some of our homeless people downtown that we're concerned about. Along with the Great Shakeout, we've also had a program called Fix the Bricks, where we've gone around to older dwellings here, particularly in downtown Salt Lake City and other areas, to in fact repair loose bricks so that if we have an earthquake that they don't fall out and hurt somebody. And so the protocol has taken place, and I feel very good. This was the dress rehearsals we've had in the past actually helped us prepare for this event today, the real thing. We're going to get some reports on what's taking place from experts here today and the earthquake experts, and talk about what we have coming forward. We have a lot of rumors out there that are false, and we'll have some comments made on what we can experience going forward over the next couple of weeks. We have had about 21 aftershocks, and that causes concern and probably anxiety. But the experts are telling us they're 95% sure that this was the big one. There's not going to be a bigger earthquake coming over the next week or two. That being said, we ought to all be prepared. Again, do the common sense things, making sure that we have medicines on hand. Have your 72-hour kits, which is part of our protocol here. For everybody should have one of those if they need to evacuate some area. And again, the fact that we have taken steps means that most of the people of Utah are in fact prepared. Our last great shakeout drill, we had over 1 million people of Utah participate in that exercise. So that should give us some comfort. The biggest challenge we face, I think, right now is we have 235 power outages affecting just under 50,000 people, Rocky Mountain Power customers. The schools have stopped right now, and so they're not delivering meals. So they are full stop right now until further notice. UTA rail has been suspended temporarily until we get an assessment made to make sure that everything is safe to operate again. And as I mentioned, the Salt Lake Airport is closed temporarily until we make sure that everything is safe there. So all things considered, we've been very fortunate in the loss of minimal loss and damage of structures. We have some leakage, some toxic spills, but they're being taken care of, and looks like they've all been contained. So we're in good shape, and I think we're very optimistic this will all be taken care of here in the next day or two and get us back to normal. So with that, Mayor, I'll let you speak next, and I'll go around this way so we don't breathe the same air.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Cody.
We've been through a lot this week as a city, and waking up to an earthquake is not something any of us wanted to have happen, but we couldn't be more prepared than we are right now. Our emergency systems are fully activated. Communications with our county and our state partners have been and are running smoothly. Our public safety system is fully functional. Our residents are better prepared to be at home than they probably have been at any time in the last many decades. Our city is resilient. We will get through this. Our city crews are assessing damage right now, and that work is ongoing. Salt Lake City owns about 88 buildings. We're assessing all of those structures, of course, our public utilities, our street system. Our crews are hard at work. Our airport, as was mentioned, is not currently operational. The concourses, terminals, and the FAA towers are all evacuated. There's damage in Concourse D due to a water main break. They're assessing other damage, but they report that the airfield itself is not damaged. We'll let you know, of course, as soon as we do when the airport will be resuming operations. Our emergency responders are responding to calls, obviously with priority going to serious ones, and we'll let our public safety directors speak to that in just a moment. I'm asking people to stay home, but be prepared in the event that there may be additional aftershocks. This is actually a great opportunity for us as residents to decide ourselves to stay put. Let the first responders who are out there doing the work they need to do, and let the crews who are assessing our critical infrastructure do the work they need to do. Staying home is a really good choice for everyone, in my opinion, as our mayor right now. The added benefit, of course, is that you minimize your risk of exposure to COVID-19 at the same time. Social distancing is still critically important, but social grace goes a long way in times like this. People are worried. People are afraid, and rightfully so. But please be kind, be generous, be forgiving. We all want the best, and we will get through this easier, and it will show our character even more as a community when we do so with grace. So thank you, Salt Lake City. Thank you for being with us today, and we will keep you up to date as the day progresses. I'll turn the time over to County Mayor Jenny Wilson.
Well, thank you. We wrapped up our briefing not long ago, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just to reiterate that we would appreciate people staying home wherever possible. Took me just a few minutes to get here from our emergency communication center emergency coordinating center, and there were quite a few cars on the road. So let's stay home wherever possible. I think the mayor's comments were quite eloquent about caring for each other, and we do want to share that we are here for you. Our coordination is very, very strong, and I think great leaders like the governor, Mayor Mendenhall, leaders throughout our county are doing the work, and I have personally been touched by the amount of commitment from our emergency responders. We are good at it here in our community. I can tell you, having been able to work in government for some time, the men and women out working in the field know what they're doing. So we will, at Salt Lake County, continue to update. I am most relieved that we don't have the loss of life or major injuries. I think that's after we all woke up this morning. That's what came to my mind, and I'm so pleased to be able to report that today. But we will continue to assess property damage, and from the Salt Lake County perspective, be continuing to report throughout the day. Thank you.
Good morning. I stand here today to assure you that Salt Lake City and the women and men of the Salt Lake City Police Department are prepared and trained to handle multiple emergencies like we're experiencing today. I want you to know that public safety and city leadership, and on that point I want to pause and say, Mayor Mendenhall, you're doing a great job. It's been one heck of a first 100 days, but you're doing well, and we're all very proud of you. I want you to know that we are all hard at work to ensure, we want you to ensure that we remain operational. But I encourage everyone to utilize our technologies. You can go to saltlakeCityPD.com to our online reporting tool if you need to make a report. If you need to, call 799-3000. That's our non-emergency number. But also, if you need us and it's emergency, call 911. I want you to know that we'll be there for you. If you do call, and if you're talking to our call takers, please let them know if you're experiencing any symptoms of the coronavirus. That way, we can take the necessary precautions to respond and make sure that we are able to respond many, many times in the next few months. Also, please, again, I just want to say, remain calm. Heed the guidance and direction of our state and local government during this most hectic time. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carl Lieb. I'm Salt Lake City Fire Chief. I just want to reassure everyone that all our fire stations are up and running. All our apparatus are in good condition, and most importantly, all our firefighters are in position. They have reported for duty. So we are responding to calls as we speak. Since 7:10 this morning, we have responded to approximately 150 calls for assistance throughout the city. We will continue to do so. Fortunately, we have had no serious injuries. We do have some damage to buildings throughout the city and county. We're responding to those as we speak and trying to validate that those buildings are safe to occupy. There are some 20 inspectors in the city doing just that right now, in addition to checking on all the key infrastructure throughout the city and the county. As Police Chief Mike Brown said, I want to reassure the residents of Salt Lake and, of course, Salt Lake County that if they call 911, we will respond. We are prepared. Given the COVID-19 precautions that are in place right now, of course, we will take precautions, and please let us know if you're experiencing any symptoms of that virus right now. That would be very helpful. If the public would like to help us out, we ask that you please just remain at home today. Allow the first responders and those people that are addressing our infrastructure throughout the city to do their job. That helps us out dramatically. So thank you for listening. We appreciate your assistance.
I'm Steve Bowman, the Geologic Hazards Program Manager with the Utah Geological Survey. We're part of the Department of Natural Resources, and we're also part of a program called the Utah Earthquake Program. And it consists of the University of Utah seismograph stations, and Keith Coper, the director, is here, and also the Utah Division of Emergency Management, and Bob Carey is also here with us today. And this Utah Earthquake Program, we respond and help prepare for earthquakes such as this. There's been a lot of reports out there that a very large earthquake, magnitude 8 or 9 is imminent. It is not. We can't get an earthquake greater than about magnitude 7.6, 7.7 here in this area of the Utah and the Wasatch Fault. And as we go forward, we expect that we're going to continue to have some of these smaller aftershocks like we've been seeing. The governor mentioned that we've already had over 20, and I suspect that we're going to continue to have more as we go along, and Keith can elaborate a little more on that. We have groups of geologists that are out in the field looking at damage and also looking at geologic effects of damage, such as small landslides or liquefaction where sand can boil up from the ground. And so far, we've only seen very small geologic evidence of damage. Of course, some of these older buildings that are brick have had a lot more damage to them. And we're also working with some of the building inspectors and gathering that data in a digital clearinghouse. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Keith, on the earthquake?
Yeah, I can say a couple of words. Yeah. So my name's Keith Cooper. I'm the director of the seismograph stations at University of Utah. And the first thing I want to say is just reiterate what Steve just said, which is that there's essentially zero probability of a magnitude 9 earthquake. So that's just a rumor that's been going around on social media. There is a slightly increased probability that we could have a magnitude an earthquake that's a little bit bigger than a magnitude 5.7, but that's only a few percent probability, and it's going down in time. And so what you've already heard about the aftershocks, that's sort of what to expect. There should be hundreds, if not thousands, of magnitude 2s and 3s, but for the most part, they won't do any damage. So this is not the big earthquake. This is not the, quote, big one. This is a moderate-sized earthquake, and there's no need to panic.
Thank you. Jess Anderson, serving as the Commissioner of Department of Public Safety. In our capacity today, we have the Division of Emergency Management running the State Emergency Operations Center. I'm here to report that we are at a level 1 operating activation, which is fully operational. We have every person that has been always planned and prepared for, and at the table and fully functional at this time. At 7:09 this morning when the earthquake hit, I can tell you that earthquake, what we do know is that earthquake was felt clear up into southern Idaho, over into Rich County, parts of Wyoming, all the way out in the Vernal, Uinta Basin, as far down south through Millard County. Parts of the state, Beaver South, did not feel the earthquake, but that's how big of an earthquake we were talking about in the effects. What we know right now, and I apologize if I'm sure Governor mentioned a few of these, but just being in and out as things are still active and assessments are coming in. What we do know as far as damages. Damage to the traffic control tower at Salt Lake International Airport. Along with that, some minor flooding which has taken place in one of the concourses at the airport. We have damage to some roadway structures. Our UDOT is out inspecting roadways right now and structures and bridges up on 1200 West over Legacy in Farmington. We have structural damage where there's a little bit of separation on a bridge. Some of that, it could be cosmetic, but engineers are now engaged in looking at that to assess further. We have in some of our state buildings, there is some damage where as far as some gas leaks and other damage which has occurred. Ceiling tiles have fallen out of several of our state buildings that we are aware of, as well as some of the local buildings we're getting reports of. That is about the assessment of structural damage that we know at this point. Some, as you've seen with the bricks, of course, that have fallen off of the facade of some of these structures as well. We do have a situation on the property of Kennecott that we are dealing with. It's a chemical hazmat situation where several different chemicals have come together, or at least have the potential to come together. Salt Lake County, of course, is working with that, and we are still mitigating that situation and assessing it as need be. All of our communication systems and lines are still functioning and working, even though there's been a little bit of structural damage to the CenturyLink hub. That is all on the surface cosmetic, and nothing has impacted the structure of phone lines to computer lines to radio communications for emergency personnel at this time. So all of our PSAPs, our public safety answering points, are functioning, fully functioning and working properly, which is the 911 system. Some of those impacts that we know right now, 235 different power outages affecting nearly 50,000 individuals. Rocky Mountain's working on that, and to which they assess that they will have those restored here shortly, or throughout a short time frame. Schools have stopped delivering meals for the day, and all of our UTA rail is suspended, which the Governor mentioned. Beyond that, I would just like to also, there's a couple of rumors or false narrative that's also going around that we need to make sure we get ahead of. You've heard the fact on a larger earthquake happening. Of course, we don't. Earthquakes are unpredictable, and we don't know when they will come. However, the fact that this was probably the big one, 95% chance that this was the big one out of this series of earthquakes. We do not anticipate another large earthquake, let alone a 9-point something that's being reported through social media. Another is that people are being told to shelter in place. That is not the case for this earthquake. That is FEMA is not coming out with that. We are in touch with FEMA, working with the federal government. That is not a narrative, though, that we need to panic about or worry about from an earthquake. The other place is the other narrative is in the event of an earthquake, in which we prepare for it with the Great Shakeout, which over 1 million people have been engaged in that every year, is to stand in a doorway. It is actually best to get under a table, a solid surface, or a desk, something that gives you a much more and greater strength and support. So that's just a few of those perhaps rumors or otherwise false narrative that we're trying to combat and get ahead of. We do know at this time that we are working very closely. We are in contact at a state level with all of our counties and the county emergency managers up and down throughout the entire state, in addition to the situation that we're still managing with the COVID-19. All of our hospitals and infrastructure of hospitals is up and working. whether it be on full power or even backup power, but they are full functioning and able to continue to address people's needs as they come in for emergency purposes, as well as the testing of the COVID-19. So with that, thank you.
We'll now open it up to questions if you have any.
Does the city have a plan moving forward to help residents assess the structural integrity of their homes and outbuildings as recovery continues?
Yeah, we're working on that right now. As I mentioned, our engineers are looking at the 88 buildings that we own, and just a heads up to mayors across the country will be looking for support as can appropriately get here to help us make sure that we're doing structural assessment throughout the city in the coming days and weeks.
Do we have any additional?
And county has a comment.
So I would just add, that Magna is a township. We have great governance there. The county stays in touch with them, as well as all of the 17 cities and 5 townships within the county boundaries. And we will be looking at the extent of the damage and be in touch with property owners starting, probably tomorrow. Right now what we're doing is assuring that people are safe and there isn't structural damage that could cause any impacts or any further concern to the property owner, and we just want to keep people safe for now.
Do we have any additional information about the situation at Kennecott?
Can I?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clint Meekum. I'm the Salt Lake County Emergency Management Division Chief. With regards to the situation at Kennecott, we have multiple hazardous materials crews and a command structure out at Kennecott right now with that facility. They are currently identifying the chemicals that are involved, as well as the mitigation measures that are necessary. As of right now, the last report that we have received, there is a visible plume. The plume is going up into the air and it is headed to the north. They're continually evaluating the weather and making sure that to ensure that this plume will not impact any citizens. We have contingency plans in place should it become necessary, should the weather adjust at this point. But that's where we're at with Magna.
So at this point, is it a toxic cloud? Is it something that could cause physical harm to people?
The cloud itself,
yes.
The product is not identified as of yet. We are operating under the assumption that yes, it is. But again, I will reiterate for everybody, the cloud is not impacting any citizens of Salt Lake County at this time. It is moving to the north out over the Great Salt Lake. The crews out on scene are taking great precautions to make sure that that protective posture, should we need to change it, we'll change it in a timely manner.
Taylor? Just another rumor maybe you can dispel. We're hearing some people are filling their bathtubs with water. They think there's going to be a water shutoff. Any truth to that?
Our water infrastructure seems to be well and intact. Our Director of Public Utilities is surveying our watershed and the infrastructure in that area as well. We haven't received any reports of disruption or any sort of contamination. Water system is normal and functioning, and we will absolutely let you know if that changes in any way, shape, or form. Anyone else?
Can I add to it?
Yes, Jess.
To add to that as well, another that we've also had to answer a lot of questions this morning is with natural gas. Everybody's shutting off their natural gas. There's no need to be alarmed or have to turn off your natural gas just out of the fact of an earthquake. Only if you were able to smell or hear any sort of compromise within your gas system, then you need to take a precaution there. But just along with that water question, natural gas is the same thing. Just unless you see obvious signs of or smell, then otherwise you're fine.
If I could add something. We've each spoken to rumors, social media. We will inform the community. We were able to come together quickly. The county was able to pull together a press conference not long after the incident. We will continue to communicate, whether it be here or over at the county ECC. I know the mayor's committed to that too. So when you're hearing things, know that we are sharing information as we know it. We're being transparent with that information, and the rumors that are flying are nothing other than rumors, unless they are from our officials that have spoken today or coming directly from sources that can be verified.
Can a seismologist come back again and talk about that? When you say near zero probability, almost certain we can't have, can you do the science a little bit on that, why that can't be, rather than just stating it?
Yeah, so basically the bigger an earthquake is in magnitude, the bigger the area it is that it takes up. And so a magnitude 9 is going to happen over hundreds of kilometers.
Okay, they are wrapping up, and actually I just sneaked a peek at Lindsay's graphic. She's going to explain the magnitude of earthquakes for us in a little bit, but he was just going over that, and what was felt here at 5.7.
Yeah, I see her graphic over there, so we'll get to that in just a second.